Thank you guys for joining us. To kind of give you a little bit of a backstory, like we've been recently a lot lately. People ask how we've grown and how we've grown so much, and like, oh, it happened overnight. And the reality of it is, it couldn't have been further from an overnight deal. Like I've been doing this since I was 18 years old, started back in 2008. And it honestly took us like a solid 10 years, took me a solid 10 years to try to figure out what the heck it is we were doing, why we were doing this. And the one thing that ended up happening that was really the pivotal moment for us to realize our framework for getting stuff done wasn't working and that we didn't have a framework for it was I ended up in a lawsuit with one of my old ex-business partners. And that lawsuit ended up bankrupting me back in 2019. Finally got out of that lawsuit in 2019. And then I was ready to say, okay, that was rough. Bankrupted me, shut down the business, lost most of our team. But at the end of the day, we needed to be able to come out of it and we needed to come out stronger. So came into 2020, excited, ready to put the throttles down. And sure enough, COVID hit. So it completely changed our plans and what we thought that year was going to look like. And we're like, hey, there's one thing that's for certain that I've learned from being in the business in 2008. And it's that truly the market has no impact on your business so long as you don't allow it to. Like there's always going to be headwinds and there's always going to be tailwinds in the market, but the market really matters the most for people who are not disciplined. The market matters the most for people who are reactionary. It matters the most for the people that don't have a strong skill set. And it matters the most for people that don't have a true focus. And one thing that I didn't have was a clear focus on what we were doing, what needed to happen on a daily basis to ensure that we were accomplishing what needed to be accomplished within the day. And diluted focus, which is what I had, ended up providing diluted results. So when we got way more intentional with how we do this, and if you've read the book 12-Week Year, this is going to sound very familiar to you. It's a book that I make sure that I read at least twice per year because it's the constant reinforcement of how it is that I need to operate our business to be more effective in our days. And the one thing that I learned is like, we all done it. Who here had a goal for 2023 that they've already fallen off of? It's a lot of people. A lot of us had goals and we say by the end of the year, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to grow my business to Y. And it's like, at the end of the day, 12 years in annualized goal setting is wildly ineffective. The reason that it's so incredibly ineffective is that it's not digestible. Like when we talk about, hey, in our office, it's like, if you want to make at least $100,000 a year, we've done the math, we track the numbers, you need to have at least 2 conversations per day with new people, new prospects. So if you're telling me that you want to make $100,000 a day, do the math. That's a whole lot of conversations that you got to have in a year. But the reality of it is, if you're focusing on that year and that undigestible number, we're never going to hit it because it's too difficult to track. It's too difficult to see if we're pacing. So what we've done is break everything down so that we're winning each day. That's the only thing that matters. Each and every day, what is your daily focus? What is it that you have to do in order to accomplish your goals? And then you make sure that you actually get those things done. And it's like on our team, we tell our agents, your goal at bare minimum, if you're trying to be a 6-figure netting agent, you need to have at least 2 conversations per day. But most people aren't tracking the amount of conversations they're having. Most people aren't tracking any of the important metrics that are going to help grow their business predictably. So what we can focus on, what is very digestible, is when I walk up to Hector and I say, Hector, your one and only job today, winning the day for you, is making sure that you have 2 conversations with people. And whether you do that through geographic farming, whether you do that through cold calling, whether you do that through open houses, whether you do it through online leads, whether you do it through calling into a pond, if you have access to one on a team, it doesn't matter how you do it. Your one and only job is to make sure that you have 2 new conversations with 2 new prospects per day. And if you do that each day, 5 days a week, I'm not even saying 7, 5 days a week and you make sure you hit it. And if today life gets in the way and something happens and you can't make your 2, that means tomorrow you're going to make 4. And when you're tracking it, it's so incredibly easy for us to be able to make sure that we are pacing to achieve our goals. So a lot of this is just about breaking down our annualized typical goal setting and breaking it into 12-week cycles, because 12-week cycles are short enough to where we can maintain our focus, but they're long enough to where we can see results. And that's why we run, like in our office, we run 30-day sprints based on quarterly cycles. And it's because when we were running these big, long 3-9-month competitions, everybody loses focus on them. So I'm going to kind of break this down into a couple different ways. And I know this is super incredibly cheesy, and I know it's a cliche at this point, but our mindset is so incredibly important to this entire process. Your thinking is what drives our actions, and our actions are what derive our outcomes. So the 12-week year, and what I love about it, is it just uses various techniques that are fundamentally going to change the way that you think, that change the way that you execute, and improve the results that you're getting. And the most fundamental shift that this book will give you, and why I like it so damn much, is it gets rid of the entire year, and it's going to break it down into 12 weeks. And most of us, when we're automatically planning to evaluate our goals on a 12-month basis from January to December, the problem is 12 months seems like a ton of time. So we end up procrastinating, and we don't optimize each and every day. So shorter planning and shorter action cycles have been way more effective in getting where we need to be. It's like if you guys follow sports or athletes, typically they will go practice and train intensively on developing a new skill set for 4 to 6 weeks before they move on to their next skill. In most industries, you see that people will see spikes in results at the end of the year because companies and salesmen, they're trying to hit targets to get their bonuses. So all of a sudden, when we start coming up at the end of the year, what does everybody do? Everybody starts this sprint towards doing the things that they know they need to do in order to create the results that they're aiming to create. So it's like, why do we do that on a yearly basis? Because we all do it. We set our goals in the beginning of the year, and then we get towards the end and we're like, shit, I'm not pacing. I'm not going to hit my goals. I got to hurry up and start doing the things I should have been doing in order to help bridge that gap from where we wanted to be from where we're actually at. So the nice thing about breaking this down into 12-week cycles and quarterly cycles is it creates that same surge 4 times throughout the year as opposed to 1 time throughout the year. And if you truly follow this, and if you hold yourself accountable to it, you will hit your target so much more easy because 1, you'll know when you're deviating off course, and 2, you'll have the ability to fill in any short performance. And the reason, like we say, why mindset's so important, and the reason that I wake up so early, and the very first thing I do is always read a book. And it's always something that's going to be productive. It's going to be something that's beneficial. It's going to be something that's positive, because if I can reinforce what it is I'm doing with something productive, it changes my entire course of the day. I'll break this down into 2 different parts. And it's basically building the right foundation and then actually implementing and applying the 12-week year into your guys' business. And it's just a framework. All we're trying to do is make sure that we install reinforcement to where 1, we can identify when we're falling behind, and 2, we have the ability to catch up. So I'm going to start with here at the bottom. You can see the 3 core principles, and then there's 5 disciplines. So accountability literally is just the willingness for us to take ownership of our actions, regardless of the circumstances. And it's not about holding people accountable to bad actions or not getting results. It's about taking responsibility of our outcomes. That means if you want to change your life, you have to find new options and possibilities instead of waiting things for happening or waiting for things like external factors to get us to where we need to be. The market now, we know there's a huge headwind in the market, and it's really discouraging for a ton of people, and I get it. And we can feel what we want to feel, and we can feel bad for ourselves as long as we want to feel bad for ourselves. But at the end of the day, that headwind is still there. And it's our job to make sure that we can have strong enough engines, which for us, that's our mindset, to push through those headwinds and still make progress. Our market last year was down by 70% in transactions, but our team was up over 100%. Year to date, these headwinds have gotten even stronger. Year to date, we're still up 68% when we've had these strong headwinds that we've had. And it's only because we're saying relentlessly focus on the few things, not focusing on door knocking and cold calling and open houses and online leads. We're literally focused on our two core lead sources, and it is all we focus on, and it is all we try to drive our results with. So accountability, just making sure that we're taking responsibility of our own actions and not blaming the external outcomes. 2, commitment. It's about doing whatever it takes to keep the promises that you've made to yourselves and to others. And it's commitment for us is by far the most vital piece to any agent's success, because keeping to your promise to other people, yeah, it builds trust and people will like to work with you because they know you like to deliver. But keeping your promises to yourself builds self-esteem and it builds character. And that's why it's so incredibly important that we don't constantly break those promises to ourselves, because it breaks down your self-esteem. It breaks down your character. When you're constantly breaking those promises to yourself, you wire yourself to think that it's going to be the outcome. When you start a new goal, well, I know I'll probably start for a couple months, but then I always fall off. So successful commitments, like what we've found, in order to have successful commitments, it involves really 4 factors. A super strong emotional desire for the result, the key actions that you're going to take that are going to deliver those results, awareness of the associated costs. And this one by far is the most important because we all screw this up in the beginning. So the awareness to the associated costs are things like time, energy, money, risk, discomfort. And we see people in the beginning of the year, especially with our team agents, when we do our goal setting, an agent who is making maybe 30, 40 calls a day in the beginning of the year says, I'm going to make 200 calls a day. And that's their goal. That's what they strive to accomplish. And fantastic. The problem is somebody who went from 40 to 200, that's a substantial increase in time. It's a substantial increase in effort. And most people end up setting their goal on something that's way too big of a bite to chew. So instead, we try to help our agents focus on just try to improve by 1 call per day. And it's something we ended up doing this push-up challenge in our office. We've got a bunch of guys in here. And we did this push-up challenge. And I said, guys, if I tell each of you that you have to do 100 push-ups tomorrow, you're going to be super discouraged because you're not going to be able to do it. However, if I were to go up to Hector and I say, Hector, how many push-ups can you do today? And you get down and say you did 10, you did 15, you did 20, you did 25. Okay, your goal tomorrow is to do 26. And then your goal the next day is to do 27, then 28, then 29, then you can give yourself a break. Then you're going to do 30, 31, 32, 33, give yourself a break. The next day, 34, the next day, 35, 36, 37. So we did this, and we did it with our team, everybody, all types of physical capabilities and or lack of. Each and every single person that went through this challenge was successful in improving their push-ups 1 per day. Not one person wasn't able to do it. Because when you gear yourself and when we track, and this is why I say tracking is so incredibly important, because if you're not tracking, you don't know how many you did yesterday. One of the reasons, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Peloton, it's my nemesis. I absolutely love to hate it, but it is at the bottom, there's an average cadence. And so I always make sure I'm improving that cadence by at least 1 watt of output each and every time I ride. But if I'm not tracking, I don't know what I did yesterday. So then I succumb to how I feel for the day. And there's some days when I wake up, Mondays are always my strongest ride. I'm rested. I've had fun on the weekend. I'm ready to take on the new week. Monday, always my strongest ride. By Friday, if I'm not tracking, I will do half of the output that we typically do because we're not tracking. But when you are actually tracking and you know, Hector, yesterday you did 15 push-ups. The next day, even though he might feel like shit, he might even be sore, he can tell himself, you did this yesterday, you can do it again today. And like, that's the constant argument in the battle that I'm having in my head. And it sucks, but it works. It's like, you did it yesterday, you know damn well you can do it today. You just got to conquer that inner bitch that's telling you that you can't. And sorry for the way that I talk. That's just how I speak. So The commitment part, I can't overstate how important it is, but as we're making these commitments, we truly need to calculate the costs that are going to involve with the actions that we're committing to. Because otherwise, if we try to go too hard, too fast, we end up being discouraged because we fall short, and then that pattern repeats itself for 2 to 3 weeks. And then ultimately, we completely fall off track of what it is we were trying to accomplish. So acting based on commitments, not in the moment of your feelings, for us, is by far the most important thing for us to do. 3, I thought it was super cheesy, but I love it in the book. They call it the greatness in the moment. And its greatness doesn't come when significant results are achieved. It comes from the accumulation of countless decisions and moments, regardless of how you feel, when we focus on the things and we focus on hitting those commitments each and every day. And it's like our whole thing, every single day after every huddle, we say, win the day. Most people try so hard to multitask and cram their entire life that they end up rushing through the day and they end up being reactive instead of proactive. So now is the time that everybody can take action. It's like, you can't do shit about you not doing what you were supposed to do yesterday. You can't change that. You can't change the fact that for the last 2 weeks, you ate like shit, you didn't go to the gym, and now you got the results that those actions and that those decisions created. However, you do have the ability to change it today. And so just ensuring that there truly can be greatness in each and every moment, as long as you can take control of your thoughts, take control of your actions, and know that improvement can truly start today. So I'll kind of go break it down from the 5 disciplines that are necessary for this, and then we'll go into kind of installing the actual framework. So the disciplines, like, really ultimately shape your thinking, your actions, and your results. So number 1, and most important, you'll hear it all the time, your vision, your why. I think it's super cheesy, but we all legitimately do have one, whether we like it or not. And the funny thing is, we always try to find this crazy, deep, meaningful why and this crazy, deep, meaningful vision, when the reality of it is, my vision is super, super simple. I want to make money. I want to be able to have financial freedom so that I can do the things I want to do with my daughter. So I can take her on the vacations that I want to go on. So I can take a couple of weeks off work and not have to stress and not have to worry. Like, the why, I know it's there. It's to maximize your potential so you can have a clear, inspiring vision as to what you want your life to look like. But without it, you settle for comfortable rather than what's essential. So when you spend too much time in one area of your life, whether it's neglect or other vital areas like health or relationships, you'll start to feel drained and demotivated. However, life, in a balanced life, is about spending your time equally across the areas that are the most important for you. It's about intentionally spending your time and your energy in a way that's going to maximize your satisfaction, aligning the various aspects of your life, your business, your life vision, so that it all aligns and comes together in one uniform picture. 2, planning. So basically bringing your vision to life. It's what you must do to break down the priorities, the goals, and the action steps so that you can concentrate on a focused action. So it legitimately takes deliberate effort for us to stick with our plan, because we all know life happens to all of us. Some people allow life to pull them off track and allow them to pull them off their commitments. And like an example of this is, in our team, we have what's called prospecting time and follow-up time. Real estate agents constantly blur the lines between the two. And your prospecting time is solely focused on creating conversations with people who you have never met. But yet most agents spend their prospecting time following up with clients who they've already met, people that already know them, like them, and trust them, and are planning to use on them. Prospecting time is the time that we create the business of tomorrow. Follow-up time is the time that we've maintained the business that yesterday's efforts already created. So we tell our team, it's super simple. Make sure that you're prospecting for an hour, make sure that you follow up for an hour. And I know you'll hear coaches say you got to do 3 hours, 4 hours of prospecting. I've never known an agent to do that. Like, I've never done that. I don't know anybody who truly, for 3 hours, truly spends their time prospecting. But what inevitably ends up happening, and I'm going to pick on Hector just because I know him and I see him all the time. What inevitably ends up happening when he's supposed to be prospecting, Hector's mom calls, or client calls, or an inspection report comes in, and now you're going to review that inspection report. Or you end up having a client who ends up telling you that, hey, we're going to cancel our plan. And we allow everything that happens in life. We've got a million different people and a million different service providers and a million different things that can go south, and they do. So we allow each of those things to take control of the most important hours of our day. And in our team, it's, dude, I would rather you turn off your phone for 2 hours, turn off your emails. And we tell our agents, close your emails, turn off your phone, put your phone, because we have a dialer that we use through our CRM, put your phone in the drawer and lock it. Because inevitably what happens is Instagram pops off, or TikTok pops off, or YouTube, or a news article, or your mom or your girlfriend texting, or a client texting. All of those things, some of them productive, some of them are not. They're going to pull you off of the plan. And that's why this is so incredibly important for us to remember that we need to be deliberate about sticking to the actual plan. And then you'll hear people be like, well, Colton, my client called, so I needed to be available. All right. So Teresita, if I were your client and you're at a listing appointment with me, and our appointment's at 9 a.m. and we've got an hour blocked off. If your mom calls, are you going to pick up the phone while you and I are sitting at my kitchen table discussing my listing?
No, I put it on airplane mode every time I have any listing or a buyer's presentation.
Smart. Now, why the hell don't we do that during our prospecting time? Because I know I'm guilty of this. I've all done it. It sounds great when we say it out loud, but we know inevitably we've all been guilty of it. So when that phone rings in the middle of your time blocked prospecting time, which I would argue is 10 times more valuable than any one appointment, because that time each day strung together with days, weeks, months, quarters, years worth of consistency is going to create hundreds of transactions for you. Agreed? So why do we allow it to get in and why do we allow life to interrupt the most important time of our day? And it's like, you'll hear people and they'll make excuses, or maybe it's not your mom calling. Maybe it's Ryan calling because he's got a client that, hey, I want to submit an offer on this house. So that's productive. And our minds will trick us into saying, hey, this is productive. I can absolutely justify taking the time away from my prospecting time, the one time that's guaranteed to provide for your business, your kids, your family, your financial security. I can justify it because it's for business this time. But I would argue, again, it's no different than when Teresita's sitting in the kitchen with the listing. You wouldn't do it because, one, I'm there to hold you accountable for what that time's supposed to be held accountable for. Right? But because I'm there to hold you accountable for it. The problem that we have in our industry, and the reason that the failure rate's so high, is we are responsible for holding ourselves accountable. And when it comes to our own actions and when it comes to ourselves and our own time, we're by far more lenient on what we're supposed to be using it for than we would be if we were doing it for somebody else. So we talk about planning, making sure that we're being deliberate about sticking to the action plan that we create, the process controls and the tools, the systems that we use to align our daily actions with our top priorities. When we talk about measurement is what provides the vital feedback on where you stand with what works, and more importantly, what doesn't work, so that you can make informed decisions. The biggest mistake that we as agents do is we constantly rely on our guts, and our guts are wrong so freaking much. We have leads, like I've had lead sources that until we started actually tracking the expense and the ROI after I separated my team splits, like when we started running a P&L the true real way, things that I thought were making me a ton of money were costing me money. A lot of teams today think they're making money with their team, but if you ran your P&L the right way, they'd realize that it's their production that's making the company profitable. There's so many people, and the reason, I say I'm the team lead, or say Teresita, you're the team lead, and I'm one of your agents. When I close a deal, there's a $30,000 commission. I get paid half, you get paid half. But when you close the deal, you keep $30,000. You are still an agent who represented a role in that transaction. Teams need to pay themselves the same way that they pay their agents, because when you do that, you can find out, is my team actually making me money or is it not? And I've had so many teams do this exercise and they realize their teams are actually costing them money, because when they remove their own production from the P&L, it flips them into the red. So the reason that we have to track and the reason that we need to measure is when you know that information, you can very quickly start making decisions to improve your business, to eliminate expenses, to increase efficiencies, so that we can be more effective, so we can be more profitable, and so we can be more secure in our business. So we use a system called Sisu. Sisu by far is the best tracking system. You got to use it, and you got to make sure you use it the correct way. There's a million different automations that you can build into it to ensure you have data integrity. But when you can actually focus on conversations and appointments set and appointments met and contracts written and contracts pended and contracts closed, when you track and measure how many conversations you have to have in order to secure a closing, but more importantly, everything there in between. When I'm tracking how many conversations I have to create a set appointment, and then how many appointments do I have to set in order to get somebody to show up, because people no show us. And then when I meet people, how many of those people, what percentage of those people am I getting to the offer table? And then of the people that we get to the offer table, how many are we actually pending? And then how many are we closing? Because when we track and we measure that, I have the ability to go into Teresita's metrics and say, okay, she's having a ton of conversations. She's setting a ton of appointments. She's getting face to face with a lot of people, but oh my God, she's not writing offers for anybody. Okay, we got to go find out how she's showing up. We got to find out the standard operating procedures that she's using during the showings. We got to find out how she is, what she's saying, what she's doing to secure that second appointment on the first. Because a really good agent has the ability to magnify themselves so that leads chase them, as opposed to you having to chase your leads. And it's like in our team, we have a ton of low-hanging fruit and a ton of people that just call from Zillow and say, hey, I want to take a look at this home tomorrow at 3:00. They show up at 3:00 and then they pat themselves on the back like, job well done. That's not the important metric that I want you to track. The metric that I want you to track is the people who showed up just because they wanted to see a house. How many of those people chose to meet with you for a second time? How many of people chose to get in front of you for a buyer consultation or a strategy session? How many of those people met with your lender? Because your ability to push them further into that process with you and to lock them into a strategy session or pre-qualification is you magnifying yourself so that they're going to be committed to you. But if you're not tracking that stuff, you don't have the ability to go make the tiny little adjustments to your processes that are going to allow you to be a more effective and efficient agent. So it's so incredibly important. And I remember Kay Fairchild with Tom Ferry. She was the first coach I ever had. She's still a huge coach at Tom Ferry. I remember in her coaching call, the first time I had with her, she asked me, how many conversations do you have to have in order to close an appointment? And I got so offended and shocked. I was like, nobody tracks that shit. What are you talking about? I have no idea. And I ended up firing her because I was like, this is ridiculous. This is stupid. Little did I know that was literally the best advice anybody had ever given me, is that me not having transparency into my numbers and the KPIs and the things that drive my business forward, and without me tracking it, I can't improve it. Because now that we're being faced with headwinds, I don't know if anybody knows aviation at all, but when the pilot is being faced with headwinds, do you think they have to put more throttle down in order to stay aflight? Of course they do. But you got to know. And the problem is when most people are facing headwinds, they're not tracking and they're losing so much momentum and they don't even realize it. And it's the reason that we are faced with a declining production volume or declining transaction amount. Because what Teresita has the ability to do to track based on the conversations and the contracts she's closing is realize, shit, what got me there last year isn't going to get me there this year. And what was taking me, say, 50, I'm going to use a random number. What was taking me 50 conversations to close one deal is now taking 75. So Teresita has the ability to make the tiny little adjustment to make sure that she's having those extra 75 conversations so that she can make sure that she's making up for that headwind and the decline in the market that it's going to create. But if she's not tracking, she doesn't have the ability to make that adjustment. And that's why it's so incredibly reckless. And then the last one here. So we got vision, planning, process control, measurement, time in use. This is ultimately what you do with your time determines the end result. The only way to achieve your goals predictably is if you use your time intentionally. And that when we talk about intention, I kind of already went into that. It's literally about us making sure that when that phone rings or the client calls or you get that email, the social media pops off or your kids start screaming, you have to make sure that you have the ability to stay focused and that you do the actions that you're going to commit to. So the second part here, so now we're going to actually talk about implementing the 12-week year. And it's basically 8 elements that combine an operating system. So it creates literally what I call the framework for how we operate in our business. So effective execution is simple, but it's not easy. To get extraordinary results, we have to be willing to put ourselves beyond our comfort zone. And that takes consistent action in achieving the new breakthroughs that we're aiming to break through. Yet humans, we naturally resist any uncertainty and change. Our brains are designed to protect us from discomfort. So the moment that we start getting uncomfortable, you see people start to pull back. And one of my core values, and I say it every single morning, and it's an affirmation, is that I seek out daily discomfort, for I know that's where growth occurs. If you go to the gym and you get on the treadmill and you put it on 2 miles an hour and you don't break a sweat and you spend an hour doing so, am I doing anything to really push myself, to make myself healthier, to improve my cardiovascular, to improve my stamina? No. But if Hector jumps on that treadmill and puts it at 12 for the same exact time, if he strings together that consistency for long enough, is Hector going to absolutely blow past me? Of course he is. But we get comfortable in this discomfort. And like, we don't like when we get all out of breath and that we can barely breathe and that our muscles start aching and that everything starts hurting. And I break everything down into fitness and diets because it's just something that we all understand very simply. But we have to be willing to push into that, what I call in the rev limiter, the red zone, because so many of us just want to float in the green zone and some of us will push to the yellow. But the true growth occurs for the people that can constantly make that RPM tachometer ping against the 10,000 RPMs. So we have to make sure that we're focusing on this. So the vision provides the motivation to act, but the vision without action, we've heard it a million times. A dream without a plan is nothing but a dream. Your vision without a plan to actually execute on it, it's nothing but a dream. So specifically, each time we encounter change, we go through this emotional cycle. And you're going to have to watch my finger here, so I apologize. It's the uninformed optimism. The beginning of the year, we get crazy excited over the goals that we're going to set. We get crazy excited for the results that we're going to do. And we all fall in love with the end outcome, but we don't fall in love with the process to get us there. And that's the biggest mistake that all of us can make. So it's the uninformed optimism. You don't know really what you just truly committed yourself to, the time, the physical, the energy, all the things that it's going to take from you to accomplish those things. And then it becomes the informed pessimism. You go, shit, getting on that treadmill every single day at 5 o'clock in the morning really is hard. Oh man, now I'm tired throughout the day. So now I know what I committed to, of whether it's losing weight, getting healthier, be able to run a 7-minute mile, whatever it may be. That uninformed optimism, once I actually start taking the steps to getting there, is that informed pessimism. And then you've got this like valley of despair because you get to this breaking point where you 100% just done. It'd be so much easier for me to hit snooze. It'd be so much easier for me to just not do this. But then because you're not seeing the results yet, we're not seeing the results. So it's not working and I'm getting bored of it. But what we all know, if you've ever taken on a fitness journey, is that when you get on that treadmill and you go compare your results the same day after that 30-minute run, you look in the mirror, you didn't lose a single pound. You didn't lose anything. You don't look any different. The second, third day, fourth day, fifth day, seventh day, it's all the same thing. So when we're focused on that super specific day and that activity, we completely discount the value of the steps that we are taking. So it's so important for us to just be able to keep in mind, if I keep doing this and if I keep pushing myself into that red zone, I'm going to have the ability to get better. And then all of a sudden you look 3 months later and you look in the mirror and you go, shit, I'm losing weight. I fit into my jeans a little bit better. And then you start seeing the results. You start getting that informed pessimism. Now, from there, once we start seeing the results, it's a lot easier for us to be able to continue maintaining because we've created the habits, we're seeing the results that it's creating. And now instead of the defeat that we feel in this entire process, we start getting excited for the process because we know ultimately that it's working. So it's just something for us to keep in mind as we do this. So not relying on willpower alone to get things done. Install structures and processes to help you take daily actions in the right way. And for us, like I have a scorecard that I keep on a weekly basis. And Hector, I don't know if you saw that on the last one, but each and every day I have a scorecard and it's like, did I do these things? And I use an app it's a habit tracker. And it's like each and every day, if I focus on just doing these core principles, I'm going to see the growth that I want. So 1, wake up at 3:15. If I don't get to check that box that day. Then read a book for 30 minutes. If I don't get to check that box for that day. Then I have to go do cardio for 30 minutes, and I got to go to the gym for an hour, and then I got to be at the office by 7. And then from there, like, that's my personal health. That's my time that I focus on me. That's the time that I focus on my life. Because if I can feel good up here, regardless of what the market's doing, my mentality and my ambition and my willpower will push me through. But then from there, my goal is to make sure that I have at least 5 new conversations per day. 5 new conversations per day. And then 3 new follow-ups a day. And this means actual conversations. So Teresita, when you call Hector and he doesn't answer, that doesn't count, because you have to have the damn conversation. And then, so I'll have those 5 conversations. And then you do your 3 or your 4, however you want to set your follow-ups. Mine at the time, back when I actually was doing production, it was actually making sure I had the 5 new conversations per day. I made sure I had at least 4 follow-up conversations each day. And I made sure that I contacted at least, and I stole this from Tom Ferry, I didn't create it, it's the 544. And then that I'm making sure that I touch base with at least 4 people within my sphere of influence, past clients, friends, family, whatever it may be. And then at the end of the day, I have little things built into it, check in with my mom, because that's important to my quality of life, because she can be a nightmare if I don't. And then did I have 100% diet compliance for the day? Because I track what I eat and I track with what I'm intaking, and I have certain output. Because when we track it, it's like on the days when you see nothing but red, that's a leading indicator to, oh shit, I'm not going to get any closer to my plan. I'm not going to get any closer to my desired result. But when you do track it on a daily basis, and you can't be 100% compliant every single day, every single week, but the importance of tracking it is just making sure that those key important disciplines, and in our business, it is always conversations and setting appointments. That's it. It's our one job. Our job is so incredibly easy. The formula to success: have conversations, set appointments, meet appointments, execute contracts, pend escrows, close escrows. That's literally our entire formula for success. And what's funny is we had a new agent come in, and the new agent in one day made 200 calls when everybody else is making 20. And guess what? The guy who made 200 phone calls talked to like quadruple the amount of people that everybody else did. Because the phone calls turn into conversations, and those conversations are what turn into appointments. So when we're tracking it and we're making sure that we hit that number every single day, we really start to see progress. So scoring and planning, super important. Review your progress and your activities weekly. I do mine daily. That scorecard that I have, and I'll share with you guys the app in a minute, and I do believe everybody should build this scorecard, because Hector's is going to look different than mine. What does winning the day look like for Hector? What does winning the day look like for Ozzy? What does winning the day look like for Ryan? Each of you have different things that you need to accomplish on a daily basis to get where you want. But if you're not tracking it, and if you're not measuring it, I promise you, you're delaying the road to getting to where you want to be. So focusing on the strategic activities, not the mundane tasks, by far. And then you leverage peer support. The reason that we run team competitions is when Ozzy doesn't feel like getting out of bed in the morning, which honestly, I shouldn't even say that, because that's never happened with that woman. She's here every day at 7 o'clock. But when somebody doesn't want to show up for that day, having your peer support saying, hey, get your ass to the gym, or hey, get your ass in here and make your phone calls. Hey, why weren't you here at call night? That peer support further reinstalls the reinforcement structure that we need to have to ensure that the train stays on the damn tracks. It's by far one of the most important things for us to do. Keep score, continuously improve, use measurements to get feedback on how well or badly you're doing. So that whole appointment set thing, the nice thing is when we have visibility into that, Teresita, I can see that you had conversations with 100 different people, but you only set appointments with 20% of them. And in our world, with the leads that we're receiving, I know good performance is setting appointments with at least 91% of the leads that are being received. So if I have visibility that you're only setting appointments with 25, I now have the ability to go coach and train on the things that I know are going to improve that metric so that you can get in front of more people. And we follow a simple framework for how we have conversations with people. Now, let's say I see in our world, getting at least 75% of the appointments you set to show up is a strong performance metric. But if Teresita is only meeting with 30%, there's some real simple, easy adjustments that you can make that are going to get more of those people to show up. And we have those standard operating procedures. A calendar invite for every appointment that you set literally will increase the show up rate by 12%. Just sending a calendar invite. 2, making sure that you confirm the appointment. It's super simple steps. But then the most important that I track is, Teresita, when I see that you're meeting with 75% of the leads that you're setting, what I now need to see is how many of those people are agreeing to meet with you again. And that secondary appointment can be, again, a lender, it can be a strategy session, or it can be subsequent showings. But if I see that you've got at least a 92% appointment met rate, and if I see you have a 75% strong appointment set rate, and then you got a 75% strong appointment met rate, but then you have a horrible performance on the secondary show up, that means you're doing something in how you conduct the appointment, how you're showing up. If you're showing up doing the whole Vanna White bullshit that realtors do, here's the kitchen, here's the bathroom, look at the beautiful view, look at the granite. You didn't say anything that creates value for the consumer. They don't need you to point out where the kitchen is. They know. They figured that out when they saw the sink and the dishwasher. What they need you for is to be able to identify pain points. And you ask questions, and there's a set of questions that you're going to identify that are going to help you identify those pain points so that you can then solve to them. So when I'm tracking each of these metrics, I have the ability to go into your process, Teresita, and give you the coaching that you need to improve each of those metrics so that you continue to strengthen the back end metrics, because those are the most important. Because when you do that, then you see strong submitting offers and getting to the offer table. Is that what we're going to call it? The execution table, putting pen to paper, getting people to write offers and execute contracts. And then when you do that, we have the ability to push the pending and the close metrics, but you have to track it in order for us to get there. And one of the most important things is you aim for progress, not for perfection. Because I always tell all of our new agents who come in, one, don't go do what you see experienced agents doing in our office, because you're missing what they did to get where they're at. Like where they are today, they've already gotten to the other side of the hill. They've gone through they've already gotten through the headwinds that all new agents and and I don't want to say underperforming like a bad way, but if you're not hitting your goals, you got to start getting through that discomfort so that you can get to the other side and start coasting. So we tell our new agents, never compare yourself to an experienced agent and never copy them for what they do. The worst thing you can do is go follow an experienced agent, because you're going to see what they do today. And what they did today isn't what they did 5-10 years ago to get them to where they're at now. So it's like, don't go follow a new experienced person. So aim for progress, not for perfection. Regaining control of your time. This by far, I thought my parents actually had me go to a doctor because they thought I was losing my mind. I was forgetting everything, like really important things. And my mom was like, son, I honestly need you to go have a cognitive test. She's like, you are forgetting things. She's like, I had this conversation with you 2 to 3 days ago. So I kind of ignored it. But then my girlfriend at the time said the same thing. She's like, dude, you forget everything. So thought something was wrong with me. So we went to the doctor. I did get a cognitive test. The guy laughed and he said, you're fine. He goes, you make a lot of decisions in the day. I said, yes. He says, you need to stop. He said, there's what's called decision fatigue, and each and every one of us experience it, and we have no idea. So he said, I want you to start setting out your clothes the night before. I want you to prepare for the things that you need to accomplish the night before. I want you to know what you are going to have for lunch the night before. I want you to know the things that you need to do the night before. Because now we're not having to untangle all this shit that runs through our head on a daily basis. Now we're focusing on the key deliberate plan that we've set into place and making sure that I achieve that. You shouldn't be having lunch one day at 11, one day at 3, one day at 1, one day at 2. We need to take more control of our schedule. And I know people all the time like, yeah, but this and but that. Any but that you can say is an excuse. Yes, there's the isolated incident to where you can justify being pulled off track. You get a terrible call, you got to run to school because your kids got in a fight, or your kids at school and they got sick. So of course you got to go be a mother and you're going to not be a realtor that day. However, it should not be a pattern. And if it's constantly turning into a pattern, it's your inability to take control of your schedule and your life. And John Cheplack says it best, you don't have a time management problem, you have choice management problems. And there is no truer statement in the freaking world. So pre-planning your week, set aside time for planning and doing the tactics and the key activities that you've identified earlier. Utilizing time blocking, committing blocks of time. This in the book, they call for 3 hours. Do 1 hour. We use what's called the Pomodoro effect. Hey, go make phone calls for 30 minutes straight. Don't do anything else. Then go take a 15-minute break. When we run the Pomodoro effect, by the end of the day, The agents who do the 30 minutes on, quick 15-minute break, 30 minutes of intention focus time, 15-minute break, they make way more phone calls, have way more conversations than the agents who didn't. Because you can't stay on track and stay on focus that long. And like a 3-hour window, that's ridiculous. You're never going to be able to keep your attention for that long. So use time blocking, commit to strategic blocks that are going to focus on each of the important areas of your business, in your health, of your finances. There's one time a week, every single Friday, that I go review my finances. And I look at the bank, which sometimes, especially in this changing market, sucks because you see things going in the direction that they shouldn't be going. But when we are keeping track of those important metrics and those important data points, we have the ability to make informed decisions. So stick to your plan. Do not sacrifice planned activities for the unplanned ones. And if you do that each and every day, you'll be a far more successful agent. It is pretty damn straightforward. Like the one and only thing that we want our agents to do is know what the daily tasks are that need to be accomplished. Hector, for you, just kind of a rough outline and to brainstorm, what are the key things that you got to focus on in your business to get you to where you want to be?
Stay in contact consistently with my circle of influence, my past clients, and do some lead follow-up, book appointments.
For sure. And it sounds so cheesy. I've had a million coaches do it, and I love when they call me out on it. It's because like, oh, I want to lose weight. How much weight and by when? And it's like, so that's where, when we talk about building that scorecard, and I'm going to give you guys the name of the app now. It's called The Habit, HABIT. It's got a check mark with a circle around it. You'll see there's literally on here each day, and you can set alarms and you can make it a daily thing. You can make it a weekly thing. So when you hit your 3:30, I have a thing in here. I got to text my daughter because I never want to forget. And then I have another thing to call her at night and FaceTime, because sometimes honestly, I know that's crazy, but sometimes I just get busy and then I look at the clock and I know she's already asleep. Her mom and I have split custody, so she's not always with me. Weight training, taking my vitamins, 5 new conversations a day, 4 new follow-ups, 4 new retention touches. So for me, my world's no longer focused on clients, but the metrics didn't change. I'm now focused on agent attraction, which means now instead of talking to 5 clients, I'm talking to 5 agents. And now I'm following up with 4 agents instead of 4 clients. And now I'm following up with my agents on my team and the people who have partnered with us. I'm following up with them for my retention touches. So the disciplines didn't change at all, just the focus did a little bit. Each day, clearing my client-facing CRM, clearing my agent-facing CRM, because that makes sure I'm completing all my follow-ups and I'm having all my conversations that I'm supposed to have. And then this is the most important one for me, is a reminder and alarm that goes off every single night at 8 p.m. that says, identify tomorrow's top 3 priorities. Because if I can just focus on accomplishing my top 3 priorities tomorrow, I will be 10 times more effective than anybody else who goes into this in a reactionary mindset and a reactionary plan. The problem is, if I don't plan what those 3 priorities are today, I show up tomorrow, I've got agents knocking on my door every 3 seconds. I got my phone blowing up and going off. All of a sudden, I'm in this reactionary mode and I stay there the entire day. But when I've identified my 3 priorities that I have to accomplish no matter what, nothing else gets in the fucking way. Nothing will get in the way of those 3 priorities. And you got to do that each and every day. It's about winning the day. Screw the annualized goal setting. Screw that I'm going to have 4,000 conversations. No, you got to have 2 today. And then you got to win the day again tomorrow and the next day. And you're going to fall off. It's like if you're at 100% compliance every single day, you don't have a far enough stretch goal. Because if you can hit it, there's days in this push-up challenge, I haven't stopped. Like, it's cool because I'm like, holy shit, I keep improving by 1. I've been doing this for 60 days. And it's like, maybe I can get to 200. And it's like by that daily improvement of 1, I'm getting there. And it's no different with our phone calls, our conversations, our appointments. So identifying tomorrow's 3 priorities. And then for my health, checking those boxes, making sure I drink a gallon of water, 100% diet compliance. Each week, I have to do at least 2 YouTube videos. Thank you guys for giving me the content for my next YouTube video. And then tomorrow, and then each week, I have to do at least 3 social media posts, because each of these activities focus on health, They focus on my business. They focus on my family. Each of these areas of my life, so long as I follow this plan, I'll make sure that I'm distributing my bandwidth and my energy and what I have to give to the areas of my life that I have chosen are important. But if you haven't identified what that is, in your time with your kids, your time with your spouse, your time on date night, your time doing yoga, whatever it is you need to do for you, it is equally as important as making those 5 fucking phone calls a day. Because when you feel fulfilled all the way around, and I don't believe in a balanced life, I don't think it's possible for people who have big goals, but you can get as close to it as your life will possibly allow. And it is so critically important. And then too, I have my last one here. Making sure that I just publicly acknowledge somebody for something great that they've been doing. And in the very beginning, I missed the ones, my daily affirmations and my gratitudes. The reason that I do my daily affirmations and gratitudes, I follow that Tony Robbins formula, and I watched the whole YouTube on it because I was doing it wrong. And he's like, you shouldn't be busting through this in 3 minutes. If you're grateful that, and I did this, Ozzy's on this call. She came in one day at 5 o'clock in the morning when she was going to take her mom to chemo. And she ended up coming into the office and setting up a pot of coffee for our office because she knows we like her coffee better than anybody else. Like, that's just who Ozzy is. She's an amazing person. She is so sweet to drive all the way from where she lives to the office to set up that coffee pot and then went to take her mom to chemo. It's like that created such an impactful moment for me that I sat there and I just thought of how incredibly grateful I am for her. And how sweet of a gesture that was, and how lucky I am to have this person in my life. And it's like, then the next thing, my daughter sent me a sweet text about love you, daddy, I can't wait to see you tomorrow. And then that is something that, and it's like when you focus on those 3 things that you're grateful for, all of a sudden your mood changes. Now you're happier because you're focusing on the good in your life and not all the shit, not all the negative headlines, not all the negative news, not all the crap that we see on social media every single day. And then making so we have our gratitudes and our affirmations, sets our day up right, read the book, and then go dominate the rest of the plan. Win the day, fuck the year. Because if you win each and every day, the rest is going to fall into place. All right. And that's it, guys. It's not a big, complicated process. It's literally creating a plan, having a crystal clear vision on it, and then executing the damn plan and not allowing life to get in the way and make excuses for why you couldn't do it that day. It inevitably happens, but check yourself. And when you use this app, you'll see on here when you go, it'll show you how much in compliance you are with your plan. And if you're anything short of 80% compliant, guess what? You're probably going to fall short of your goals. All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you letting me get my YouTube video up. And I wish you guys all the best. We'll see you next time.